Welcome to Before Floor, the pregame edition of 5 on the Floor, brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm your host, Jonathan, a.k.a. Three-Piece Combo. I'm with the main man, Mr. Ethan J. Skolnick. Now, if you guys are new to the channel, obviously it's the first game of the playoffs. Make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys subscribe. We have all your Miami Heat content, your pregame, your postgame, your in-game coverage with the playback as well. Make sure you guys check that out on Twitter. Make sure you check that out on Instagram as well. But we also want to thank our sponsors. So shout out, first of all, to prizepicks.com. So it's the best spot for daily fans to go to prizepicks.com. Use that promo code 5. Spell it out, F-I-V-E. We'll match your initial deposit up to $100. Here's why you want to play Prize Picks. First of all, it's daily fantasy, so you don't have to worry about your players getting hurt. And it's very easy because you pick points, rebounds, assists, or any of the major statistics. Go over, go under. And even if you get one of them wrong with the flex play, you still can get a 25 increase in your money. So make sure, like I said, use that promo code 5. That's up to 20 free plays. Match your initial deposit up to $100. Ethan, tell us about our boys over at Mark Brown.
Yeah, we'll talk about Mark. By the way, you don't have to worry about injuries unless you play Anthony Davis. Then you have a problem. Use the code 5, F-I-V-E. So we want to give that disclaimer. And honestly, Jonathan mentions playback. Check out playback.tv/5 on the floor. Actually, the guys are on there right now doing the Laker game, but we'll be on there for the Heat game at 5:30. It's playback.tv/5 on the floor. Do you want to mention our friend Mark Brown, huge Miami Heat fan? You can find him at markbrownpa.com. He's pointing there. He can help you with a whole bunch of things. Do you need an estate plan? Yes, you need an estate plan. If you have a child, you should absolutely have an estate plan. How would you feel? You work your whole life, something happens to you, and then your kid doesn't get anything you've worked for. You don't want that to happen. He can help you with the forms. He can help you fill everything out. Go to markbrownpa.com. It's not expensive. Again, he'll go through the entire process. He did it for me, so I can speak to this personally. Also, he's a real estate attorney. So if you got any kind of real estate attorney type issue, which is you need your closing done, or maybe you've got a bankruptcy situation. We know some people are dealing with that right now. Reach out to Mark. He can answer all of your real estate questions as well. He's got a title company right there in-house. So check him out at markbrownpa.com. Mention 5 Reasons to him. Just so he knows that you're watching. Go to markbrownpa.com. And then when you sign up, mention him. Jonathan, we appreciate you doing this the whole year. And I said to you before the last game, this might be the last one. It's not. Some Heat fans, I guess, are upset about that there's actually a playoff game today. But hopefully everybody can get on the same page and actually root for the team today. I do want to just update one thing, and then we'll get to this. Gabe Vincent and Kyle Lowry are active today. So there really wasn't much of a question, except that they were listed as questionable, and both of them said that they would play. Do we have a starting lineup yet? I don't think we do we?
Yeah, I don't think it is come out yet. Usually they keep it pretty close to the chest until tip-off, especially come playoff time. But I would assume they keep it pretty similar to last game. Obviously, Milwaukee being sized up and us being a little bit sized down might be something that that Coach Bo will adjust to, maybe come halftime or come later in the quarter. But I think they probably stick to the same starting lineup. And then really what with Coach Bo is really what's the closing lineup? Like, what are we going to close with? And that's the more important question. So just getting to tonight's game, of course, we want to thank our boy Kryptonite with the $5 dono. What's the percent chance you give the Heat to get the dub tonight? Ethan and Jonathan go Heat. Ethan, I'll let you start it off. What's the percent Heat? What's the percent chance you take the Heat getting the win tonight?
Can I say 20%? I think there's a chance you can catch them similar to the way that they almost got them 2 years ago in that game one. If Jimmy closes that game, which he nearly did, then maybe that series would have looked a little bit different than ending up in a sweep, because they kind of gave up after game one. They gave it their best shot, and then that was about it. I picked the Bucks to win this series in 5, so I'm not expecting a Heat win tonight. I do think that if you take a look at the starting lineup, though, I would be surprised, and I could be wrong again, I'd be surprised if it's the same lineup as last time. I understand that Spoelstra wants the other team to adjust to him, but I just don't see how you match up if you're going to start Strus ostensibly at the 4, or Jimmy at the 4, whoever you call the 4, because the idea here is to get Jimmy on Middleton and Bam on Giannis. That's what you want to do. You don't have a Jay Crowder. He's on the other team now. You don't have a PJ Tucker. He's in Philadelphia now. You don't have one of those guys to match up front. And so, I think the thing that makes most sense that we talked about, if you're going to play one of your starting point guards at point guard, which is another question, you could go totally weird, like Brady has talked about, start Hero at the point, and then you could continue to start Strus, so you're going to have some defensive issues there. I think the more likely scenario, the one that would make most sense, is just start Kevin Love, because if you start Kevin Love, then you're going to start him on Brook, and you just hope he doesn't kill you inside, which is not the way Brook plays anymore anyway. So if you're going to give up a couple open threes to Brook, that's what happens. But at least you get Bam on Giannis from the start. You hope he stays out of foul trouble. The other option is to play Caleb, and then you try Caleb on Giannis early, I guess, with Bam helping. That's another way they could go, but it would seem for defensive purposes, and I know he just scored 31, but if you're going to start Strus, then you essentially have to play Strus on Brook, I guess, to get that matchup. And I don't know, that one's a little weird. And I think this all comes back to what we're talking about here is there have been 5 8 seeds to upset 1 seeds in the playoffs. But there's been weird circumstances in all of them. You almost need what happened with Philadelphia and Chicago a few years ago where Derrick Rose got hurt. I find it hard to find a way for the Heat to beat a team that has Giannis and Middleton now healthy and then has 8 guys around them who shoot 37% or better from 3. The challenge for Miami is not so much on the offensive end on this series. It's the defensive end, I think. And so I think you got to start Love, not because he's a great defender, but just because it allows your best defenders to guard their best players. And then you take your chances with Drew Holiday, which, I mean, we'll see what happens there. I don't know. I mean, Jonathan, what is your what kind of chance do you give them today?
For today, I think today probably is one of the best chances Miami has to kind of get that puncher's chance, just because you can go out there, you can rattle them with a different game plan. We've seen with what they start Brook Lopez, sometimes this, we can get the 3-point shot going and you can change it from there. So I think I like what you said around 20-25%. That's probably the most likely outcome as far as the Heat getting a win. I think the biggest thing, like you said, for me, is not really going to be Chris Middleton or Giannis, because we have a game plan for those guys. It's going to be the point of attack defense and trying to slow down Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday has been on an absolute tear, playing some of the best ball that he has. And him just having an extra year under his belt with Giannis, having that chemistry, being able to set him up. We know him for a great defensive player and just how good he is defensively. But his playmaking skills has been extremely underrated this season, just being able to get Giannis in the right spot and allow for him to have his numbers and still let Giannis put up MVP numbers as well. So I'm right there with 20-25%. But let's get to the Heat. I wanted to a little bit. What do you think Miami needs to do offensively differently than maybe we have earlier this season against the Bucks to allow us to put ourselves in a good position to get a win tonight?
Well, to me, I know everybody's talking about Bam as being the key player today. And yes, if they're going to play drop on him, he needs to take that jumper. But this series is about Tyler to me in a lot of different ways. Jimmy's been up and down against Milwaukee because they put Giannis on him. They put length on him. It tends to be a little bit of kryptonite for him. We know with Bam's going to be up and down. Tyler needs to be really, really good in this series. He needs to play above his pay grade because that's their only chance. I mean, I'm talking about averaging something like, 23 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and shooting, something close to 50, 40, 90 from the field. He needs to be that kind of player in this series. He wanted this series last year when I talked to him beforehand, would you rather have Boston or Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals? And he went with Milwaukee, not because he doesn't respect them, but because of the type of defense that they play. They play the drop. They're going to allow him to get to the mid-range, to the floater a little bit. He needs to make those shots in this series. It is usually in the NBA about the third guy. When we talk about rotating, changing teams, you look at the Heat previously. They decided Timmy and Zoe were the core. After a little bit of time, they traded Jamal Mashburn, as the third guy. You go Shaq and Dwayne. Eddie Jones was the third guy. They made a choice to trade him out, and then Zoe got sick, so it didn't get to play out the way that they wanted it to. But that's typically what they've done is move the third guy. Tyler Hero is the third guy. And look, Bam and Jimmy are not as overwhelming as Shaq and Dwayne, So that third guy needs to be a consistent scorer for you. He needs to loosen things up. Tyler has had big games against the Bucks. It's his hometown team. He plays well in that building. He plays well when the crowd's against him at times. Needs to have a huge series. There's no way. He's healthy now. There's no way around it. To me, he is the key to this series. He needs to be one of the top 5 players in this series overall. And so I'm including Middleton, Giannis, and Holiday in that. Tyler needs to be a top 5 player in the series. We'll see if he can be. But to me, he's the key to them unlocking them offensively in this series.
Yeah, I think you're right. Exactly. Like you said, when Brook Lopez is out there, especially with the drop defense, that pull-up jumper is going to be there. So he's going to have to make that shot. And obviously, like you said, Bam is going to have to make that shot when they're sleeping off him too. And Jimmy's going to get his regardless. But Tyler Hero is going to be the guy that has to really step it up. I just think the 3-point shooting overall, which has really not been not really been something that's helped Miami, has to be something that steps up. I'm curious to see if Coach Spo, if we're not shooting the 3 as well, if he goes to a Duncan Robinson or if he tries to pull one of those guys out just for a couple minutes to get him a couple, just to see if they get the 3 out there. Obviously, Coach Spo likes to keep the playoff rotations a lot tighter, so it's not as likely that he'll do that. But I do think Miami, the only path for Miami to get the win is just get that 3 ball going. And obviously, with Tyler Hero going. Any final thoughts? Obviously, like you said, we got a lot of content previewing the Milwaukee Bucks versus the Miami Heat. Any final thoughts before we close it out today?
Well, I keep coming back to this. 8 3-point shooters on Milwaukee, 7 of whom are in the regular rotation, shoot better than 37% from 3. One Miami Heat player does. Tyler Hero. That's it. 8 versus 1. 4 of those 8 shoot better than 40% from 3. If Miami cannot at least, and you hit on it, if they can't at least come close on the 3-point shooting, if they can't come close, I'm talking about what Milwaukee does versus what Miami does. If they're losing that by 4, 5, 6 made 3-pointers in the game, they cannot win this game with 2s. Because even though look, the one big advantage that Miami has in this series is their best player is a better free throw shooter than Milwaukee's best player. That will matter. That's worth 3 or 4 or 5 points potentially down the stretch. We take that for granted, but the Heat have been an excellent free throw shooting team. It's the only reason they're not historically bad offensively. So they can keep it a little bit close there and with some of the 2s. But if they're getting outscored, by 6 threes, that's 18 points that they got to figure out a way to make up somewhere else. They're not going to do that consistently in this series. It's why I like Milwaukee in 5. This feels a lot to me like a big 3 series against some of the teams that they played in the first round. It feels a lot to me like Heat Knicks 2012. Knicks had good players. They had good players. It was a good team for an 8 team. They had Carmelo. They had Amari. They still lost in 5. I kind of feel like that's where it's going. My prize pick, by the way, as we get to this, use the code 5. We got to show up with Eversole also. I really like Drew Holiday over 6.5 assists. I really like Bobby Portis over 10.5 points. He has killed Miami in the past, and he's going to eat against Miami's front line, especially if Bam can't deal with him. And on the Miami side, I would play Bam over the 17.5 points, and I would be a little frightened by it. But that's the direction that I would go there. Anything you like on the prize picks board?
Yeah, like you said, Tyler Hero, you kind of just want to go over on Tyler Hero regardless because he's going to put up volume. Like these are the games that he is going to get volume in his hands, and maybe it's not when it's come Jimmy time in that fourth quarter, but Tyler Hero typically tends to have at least a quarter or 2 where he starts putting up shots. I think that regardless, if you get Tyler Hero, you take the over on the points there.
20.5 points if people like it today. Jimmy is at 25. I don't know that I'd play that one. Bam is at 17.5 today. I don't know if they win today. I'd like to think they're going to put up a better effort than the Hawks did against the Celtics. We will see. All right, follow all Jonathan's content at 3-Piece Combo. Follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick at 5 Reasons Sports. We will be on playback. We've got the full 5 on the floor crew today because nobody's at the game. Greg, me, Alex, and Brady will all be on there. We'll have Gabe on there. We'll have Mateo on there. I think Ben's going to stop by. We'll have Sean and Brian are going to jump on there too. And then a full post-game show with the 4 members of 5 on the floor will be on here on the channel. Afterwards, thanks to our producer, Alejandro Villegas, who had to watch Sandy lose again today, so we apologize for that one. Check out all of our content on the channel. He's at the Marlins game right now. Have a good day, everybody.
Let's go Heat.